Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, as the case may be, wherever you might find yourself. People are still going to be streaming into the room, but we're going to begin. So elongate your spine. Sit with your head, your neck, and your trunk in a long line. And just notice, as you've established that, what, if anything, feels different that you can sense, not think or conceptualize, but feel. What feels different? As you elongate the spine without strain, tip the chin forward just a little bit to open up a little bit of space between the base of the skull and the top vertebrae. And just make some micro movements, pressing your feet into the floor, your sits bones and thighs into the seat. Just micro movements, just pressing down to feel the connection. What's different as you do this? And then have the feeling that you're receiving the breath rather than taking the breath or trying to organize it. What's different as you receive the breath? You can get as creative as you like with how you imagine this. My imagination, my experience, is that the creative power of life itself is breathing all bodies, is beating all hearts. You may have your own experience. And now you can intentionally begin to deepen the inhales just a bit. And as you exhale, have the feeling that you're letting go throughout your whole body as though you're setting down a heavy burden. You know, when you're coming from the airport, you've got a heavy suitcase and you're carrying it, and there's that moment when you set it down. Use your imagination, bring that feeling through your body with each exhale, all the cells. And with your imagination, bring some more of your awareness to the soles of your feet. And as though you are opening with your mind, with your imagination, a tightly closed fist, bring that feeling through the soles of your feet. You're softening the soles of your feet intentionally with your imagination, with your mind. You're softening the skin, tendons and connective tissue, as well as muscles, all the way to the bone. Continuously. And if this is new for you, really enjoy. Let yourself linger and notice the powerful effects of softening with your imagination. What changes in your breathing, your heart rate, the thinking stream. And as you continue to soften the soles of your feet, please also soften your palms of your hands in the same way. And the corners of your eyes, the inside as well as the outside corners of your eyes, melting like butter on a hot day. Softening the region inside and around your ears. Your tongue. And all the little muscles of the pelvic floor, groin region, softer and softer, softening soles, palms, corners of the eyes, region of the ears, tongue, and pelvic floor, groin region. As the breath comes in sweetly and goes out slowly. See how much more of the breath you're able to feel, all the subtle sensations, the more you soften these 6 places in the body: soles, palms, eyes, ears, tongue, pelvic floor. Does your energy feel really contracted the more you soften, or does it begin to expand seemingly further from your body, like a mist? Allow one of your next inhalations to bring your awareness and your attention to the inside of the center of your chest, about 3 to 5 finger widths inside the center of your chest. What yogis call the cave of the heart. The breath actually moves through this region, so you can actually feel some physical sensation with the breath passing through here to help orient you. And at first, just get the sense of bringing your attention into this location, especially if you've been doing a lot of thinking before this session. In fact, you could imagine like lowering a bucket into an old-fashioned well, lowering the mind into the cave of the heart as you breathe sweetly and slowly. And there's a feeling like gravity. You don't have to try. If you try too hard to bring the mind into the heart, it rebels. But it actually does want to be one with the heart. So there's a gravity of the head or the mind lowering into this region of the heart, where greater awareness about everything is easier. Even if you've done some version of this many times with me or other teachers like Sally Kimpton, let it be brand new right now. Discovering what it feels like right now to explore this practice. And let yourself begin to imagine that your concrete physical senses are actually orienting from the heart here, from the heart cave. So listening is arising not from the ears, but from this heart cave in the center of your chest. And so is seeing and feeling and knowing and more. And bless the mind. Let it know it doesn't need to figure out or interpret anything you're experiencing right now. You're just going to be experiencing for right now, and the mind can take a little vacation. And as though we are all seated in a giant hall together in a circle, as though we're all seated in a giant hall together in a circle. And energetically, we actually are in one large hall, a subtle temple space, a subtle hall. This is not imagination, this is fact. So as though we're all together, let yourself explore while rooting like a tree, an ancient oak tree, rooting in the cave of your own heart, sensing all these other hearts that are blossoming or rising like thousands of morning sunshines rising from above the mountains. See if you can sense all these other shining hearts from your heart. What does that feel like to orient from here rather than past memories, future projections? What parts of your body may be seemingly more alive with energy as you practice now? Maybe there's tingling or vibration or something else that lets you know which areas are coming online, expanding. Breathe into these areas on the inhale with just the sense of appreciation, not to make anything happen. And notice if anything does happen as you breathe in with appreciation to each of these areas. Even if they're tiny or there's only one, it's okay. One area of your body and mind that feels resourced and is given attention can bring tremendous grace and clarity to challenges, confusions. Without pushing, as you breathe into these regions of aliveness, just have the feeling, imagine, see, feel, or imagine that the energy of thriving is spreading from these regions to encompass the interior of your body and the space around your body. Like the most loving, warm hug from an enlightened, truly attuned, loving parent. And if your parents weren't like that, mine weren't. Imagine what it might be like to be held, seen, and known completely by an enlightened, loving parent figure. Or several. And from time to time, keep softening at least the soles of the feet and the palms of the hands with your imagination. Then into this heart region, gently ask to be shown, where in my body am I holding any tension or contraction that is the resistance to experiencing and receiving more love in all of my relationships? Where in my body are the places or place where there's any contraction or tension that oddly, strangely, is resisting receiving love, and perhaps for what it believes to be good reasons: safety and security, certainty. And let these regions communicate with the areas in your body that are alive and vibrant. Let it be simple, just breath and softening. If you feel any emotion moving or tears flow, just let them. You don't need to interpret it or figure anything out. Just let it flow. If you're at all disconnecting from your body, press your feet lightly into the floor and your sits bones, buttocks, and thighs into your seat to feel the physicality once again. See, feel, or imagine any of the times in this life or some other existence that you have given away your power, knowingly or unknowingly. And as you inhale, draw all of it back. You don't need to know the incidents or the who or the what or the why. Just breathe it back in the inhale. Let it gather inside of the belly button area, just inside there. Let it gather like a brilliant force, like a sun on the inhale, and then hold the breath at the top of that. And then as you exhale without pushing, let it expand and form like a cocoon throughout your body. This energy is being distributed in and around your body. You may want to do this several times to get a sense and a flavor for the experience. In your own silent way, offer your blessings from this fresh clarity that every being who touches this masterclass in any way arrives more deeply in their own true heart, in the truth of love, recognizing more of the wholeness that is already our true nature. May we all be happy. May we all feel thoroughly loved. May we be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May we be open to the inner guidance that shows us how to turn challenges into gifts and opportunities for everyone involved. May it be so, and so it is. So you can take 3 deep breaths here to signal a clear transition to your body, at the end of which, if your eyes are closed, you can gently open them, and we will continue onward. I want to especially welcome all of you who are here in the live recording. It's a joy to be with you. It's much easier for most of us who teach something to be looking at real faces with real responses. Yeah. So I'm going through the gallery view. From time to time, if you're curious on the experience, you may want to just look at the gallery view. We are not alone. We are not alone. This is not TV. I can see you too. And as I've been saying to all the groups in all the courses and workshops for some time now, we are co-creating this experience together, literally and actually, by how each of us orients and shows up, just like any relationship. So a deep welcome to any of you watching at what I call a later now moment, which is many of you, which is the majority of you who've signed up for this. Research tells us that only about 30% of people who sign up for online offerings show up live. The rest take them at their own time. I'm usually the later guy. So you who think you're watching at a later now, it really is still now. Time only is relevant in certain dimensional experiences and realities. We won't unpack that here. That's not the subject of our discovery or dialogue. Our subject, why are relationships so damn hard? Have a giggle. And if you're on gallery view, you can see like the faces of recognition. It's not just you. You're not the only one who struggled with XYZ types of people. It's the human condition, yeah? There's a writer, psychotherapist, I'm not sure if he's still alive, Robert Augustus Masters. I have a bunch of his books that I read years ago and studied. And one of his books about relationships, he said, relationships are the ashrams, the monasteries, the institutions of growing and developing of the 21st century. You want to see how awake you are, how enlightened you are? Go spend 6 weeks with somebody you think you're in love with all day, 24/7, without committing murder to yourself or them. We get triggered. We get triggered. There were three fundamental things on the sign-up page or in the page announcing this class together. What's your baggage? What can our bodies tell us? And what really causes conflicts? So what really causes conflicts? Well, one of the things I continue to observe at 53 is expectations. Expectations. And if we don't hear that rightly, we could project, oh, I'm not allowed to want anything. And depending on, I'm going to say this very clearly because it is my observation over decades of coaching people, those in the female gendered body of a certain age, particularly, well, anywhere in the world, have a different experience than, say, a white guy like myself, of asking for what one wants and feeling that it's okay and safe to be clear and direct right away, as opposed to we're driving in the car together and you look over at me and you go, do you want to stop for coffee? No, I'm good. Keep going. Hey, do you want to stop for a coffee? No, I'm good. Hour later, you're pouting and you're looking out the window and you're ready to break the glass. And I say, what's going on? I've asked you to stop 3 times for coffee and you wouldn't do it. I've done that. I had a friend who was calling me out a couple of years ago. It was a new friend at the time. I didn't realize that I was making requests like that. And he goes, is that what you want? Because if it is, just ask me. And if I'm a yes, I'll join you in it, or at least help you get it, whatever it is. But for some of us, to even feel like it's okay to ask ourselves what we most want, let alone ask the people that are closest to us in our lives, particularly if what we want is an adjustment of some sort in plans or their behavior or ways that we speak to one another. So I had a really great, a little bit of a spoiler alert here. I'm recording a podcast. I've got 1 episode recorded so far. I'm not going to release it until I've got a handful of them ready to go. And the first guest, I don't know if that'll be the number 1 podcast, but the first guest is this lovely man, teacher, coach from the Southern Hemisphere, James Fish Gill. And he teaches about relationships, particularly about communication. He's boiled it all down to, we need to be aware of 2 things for each person involved. Our really real pain and our really real longing. Every person has real pain and real longing that motivates how we interact. Most people are doing this unconsciously. Have you noticed? I've been that person doing it unconsciously. Take a deep breath. Keep the breath moving, because this is not just gathering concepts. There's an experience available here. And the breath is going to help make that easier, more recognizable, without trying to shape it, control it into something that the mind is certain about. So keep the breath moving, keep softening soles and palms. Keep touching that space in the heart from the opening meditation, that heart cave, that region in the center of the chest, just with breath. Letting go as you exhale. So much more is going on here than simply words about something. The words are just one small piece of this masterclass, this workshop. So just take a moment and consider some of your closest relationships, the ones that you have the most interaction with and that have power for you, whether that's challenging power or loving power. There's a strong energy there. And maybe it's somebody you haven't even spoken to in a few years, but they're important to you, like a child you're disenfranchised with, or an ex, or a friend who you've been out of touch with. Maybe they're traveling the world, I don't know. Pay attention to your body right now as you think of each one. Take a little bit of time with each one, just pick a few, and just notice what your body does. Does it open? Does your spine elongate? Does your heart lift? Is there any contraction? Is there any rounding of the spine? What happens to your breath? This is data about where there is stored energy in your body and your energy body, that as you meet it, like a loving, enlightened parent would hold their sick child and just stay. and deeply relax within your body and breathe into and feel what's there, it moves very quickly if you don't get involved in stories and concepts. If you just meet it as energy in the body and fully feel it. All energy, including bound energy, is made of the same source that creates worlds, planets, galaxies, universes. It's just simply in a bound form. Alchemists understand this. So as you breathe into these regions and feel them, the energy starts to move from being bound towards liberated, and the body can use it as healthy energy, and it does very quickly. If you've experienced kind of original 5-element acupuncture, this is what happens. The needle goes in. It's a type of acupuncture where the needle goes in and you need to feel a bit of a dull ache in the region. You and the practitioner notice this. That's where the bound energy is. And then they pull the needle out and it begins to bloom. The energy begins to move and distribute in healthful ways. This is like that. So what if we freshly set an intention, because some of you have done this before around relationships. What if you freshly, or if it feels like the first time in this life, set the intention to let our relationships be an opportunity to grow, to awaken, to remember more of what we truly are and embody it, and wish that for all others, even if it comes to the time when it's not appropriate for them to hang out with us for one reason or another. What's different in that permutation? What's different in that way of orienting? As opposed to something transactional, like a vending machine. Okay, I bought you flowers, where are my flowers? I took you to dinner for $50, you got to take me to dinner for $50 or more. This kind of bartering that we don't know that we do. Take a deep breath, because now we're starting to target some of the past stuff that's stored in the body. So if you're getting a little uncomfortable, that's okay. Make room for it. Breathe. Feel the areas where there is aliveness in your body and connect the aliveness areas to the areas that may feel a little challenged or want support. I'm just going to be quiet for a few moments as you breathe and scan your body. Whether you remember it, realize it, and recognize it, the people in your life want you to be happy. Even if they're acting like assholes, if they care about you, because we can act like assholes to people we care about. We can. We get triggered. But they still want you to be happy. Imagine all the people who've ever cared about you in a big circle around you, and see their faces in your imagination. What do their faces look like when they know you are thriving? You can imagine easily what it looks like on their faces when they're worried about you and how that feels. Now imagine what their faces look like, their bodies look like when they know that you are thriving. And you can start to get the scent of how generous dissolving your stuckness is to the field of humanity. And that the energy boomerangs back to you. But in the old model, the way the world has been conditioned in the last, couple thousand years or so, we fall into the trap of trying to get something from people, whether we realize it or not, and then getting mad and doing the things we do when we're not getting what we expect. Take a deep breath, a loving breath, a kind breath, especially if your thoughts are trying to look for reasons to judge you. This is not about getting you to judge you. So if that's happening, take deeper, stronger inhalations and More so, let go through your whole body, like you're letting go as you're setting down a heavy burden, like a heavy suitcase, as you exhale. What we're doing here, without too many concepts, is called somatic work. Somatic is of or within, to do with the body. If our growth, if our awakening process, if our therapy is just concepts, we're not getting very far. We're just rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic, moving thoughts around, bumping into the same experiences over and over again. So feel the breath flowing through that region of the heart, as though your nose is there at the heart. So we were working with the question, what is it that causes the conflicts? Expectations is the main thing. And we have expectations that we don't recognize that we have as expectations. You've heard this example perhaps before through me or others. It's a Taoist example. Like air to a bird, like water to a fish, so is being human to a human being. The bird doesn't know air if it doesn't know not air. How does it know air? The fish doesn't know water if it doesn't know not water. It's just how it's been. It's how it was born. It's how it lives. It's how it dies in the water. So there are things about us that we may not have seen if our family members going back through time believed and acted in those ways. And we're with our partner and they're maybe starting to ask us for a different way of interacting, and we get defensive and dig our heels and go, that's just how we are in my family. I mean, that's how we show love. Well, good for you, but you're about to lose your partner if you don't figure something different out. Got it? Or friend or colleague or whomever. So we have these expectations. We don't necessarily recognize all of them that are at play. Somebody says or does something that seems counter to that. More often what really happens is we imagine somebody is saying or doing something counter to that, or they're going to, is what we imagine. Oh yeah, they're going to, I better get on this right away. And then whatever the behaviors are that we haven't noticed, that we learned growing up about how people deal with each other when their expectations aren't being met, is what we begin to do. Throat gets a little tight, voice gets a little terse, start giving people side eye, all the different things we do that are forms of subtle attempts to control and manipulate other people. Now here's a different way about it. I notice this is happening to me. I notice I'm getting tense. I'm going to give you a real example, actually, because for many people this would be frustrating and challenging at best. So I had a gnarly car accident back in the fall. It took several months to get my car back from the collision place. The work has not been done properly. There's been a battery drain issue that wasn't making any sense with 2 different batteries put in. I take it to the dealership, and we come to find out that this is yesterday, at least 4 things. There happened to be the partnered body shop that works with my BMW dealership. The manager happened to just be there. And I was actually guided in there. My chiropractor is right near there. I'm there twice a week. Something told me after I picked up my little bag of groceries, as I was passing by the building for the service center, go in and see your service manager. Okay. I walked past my car, which had been recently dropped off by the collision place to get inspected. At least 4 things that were on the estimate that they billed the insurance company for, to the tune of thousands of dollars, were not done. Some of you are getting upset on my behalf. That's not necessary. What I will say about that is that's where you're holding some energy from some sort of similar previous experience. So now use the breath and soften around everything around that. Deeply soften into your body Breathe into these regions or region with great love and care, like you're holding an infant with curiosity and love, and feel what's there. For some of you, this is all it's going to take to move some of your key relationships into the next place. You literally can make a leap today just in this gathering with this simple seeming practice. So I had lots I need to do. You're going to hear later in this session about a brand new course that I've been working on that I'm excited to let you know about. I had a lot I had to do for that. And I spent 4 hours back and forth between phone and physical location and whatnot. 5 years ago, 10 years ago, me probably would have been shouting at the body shop guy on the phone. Not because I wanted to, but because that's what I saw my mom do when people were really twisted up and doing the wrong thing, is she would get terse. My dad would scream. That was what I knew. That's what I saw in my family. Oh, that's what people who love each other do when they're not agreeing. Have compassion on yourself if you grew up in or exposed to or were taught or raised in environments like this. Have compassion. And what does it feel like to extend some extra compassion from the heart to all the previous layers of your family? Because it may have been going on for generations. Things get passed down. And nobody remembers the original incident that triggered the contraction and then the behavior that passed the contraction on through the generations. So our parents aren't bad people as such. They're people like us who carry trauma and tension that may not have been exposed to enough training and healing opportunities to learn new ways, to even recognize what they're doing. Your mother, who seems to get on your case about who you're dating or what you're wearing, and it feels to you like it's just endless criticism, in her world, she loves you so much, she wants to ensure, if she can, that you don't go through what she went through, without realizing she's actually promoting you going through what she went through. But her origin is love for you. How it acts out is twisted up. So when we come back to what James and I were discussing about our very real pain and our very real longing and their very real pain and their very real longing, and we can hold both in awareness, we suddenly have a wider perspective available to us. Each of our parents had very real pain and insecurities that they carried around, even if they never told us. And they had very real longings. You know, they were people at our ages and younger, all the ages at some point, wanting a great career or happy life and a lovely spouse and maybe, 2.5 kids. To write the next great American novel, to build a business that transforms healthcare. So many different impulses. So very real longing and very real pain is at play in every given moment in all of our interactions with everybody we ever see or speak to. And it can get any of us in the interaction to say and do things in ways that in our best state we would never do it that way, because we get attached, we get fixated, we get rigid. And we're literally projecting onto the other that they're not going to be helpful, that they're not going to give us. Otherwise, why would we need to get so terse? It's our old stored bound energies and traumas under the illusion that we are not worthy of the things we want. And then we are angry about it, don't see that we're angry about it, and start projecting our anger onto other people, turning them into a bad other. A bad other. This is a term coined by John Wellwood, one of the first transpersonal psychotherapists, who coined the term spiritual bypassing. Using spiritual practices and different things to avoid feeling the things I've been leading you to sitting with today in the body. Let's take a couple of deep breaths. A lot of words have been said. Let go as you exhale, like you're setting down a heavy burden from every cell. And just a few more deep breaths like this. Just sweetly scan your body. What's happening? Also make sure you feel the backside of your body, even though you don't see it. It is there, and it is worthy of your care. Has any energy moved? Are there any more pockets of aliveness, vibrancy? Are you noticing any places of holding that you didn't notice before that you can breathe into lovingly, sweetly, with care? One of the most powerful tools I notice I have relationally is remembering to pause before acting or speaking. To pause, to soften the 6 points. If you have a different way of relaxing the body, wonderful, but some form of deeply relaxing into the whole body. And listening. Listening beyond just the words that are being spoken, to sense more of the bigger picture. To let go of the rush to have the next word or the final word, or to be right or to make another wrong. So we've been looking at the questions that were there that invited you into this masterclass. What's your baggage? What can our bodies tell us? And what really causes conflicts? As you work with this somatic process that I'm showing you more deeply, more consistently, you will have your own insights about how to work with these areas. The thing is to keep it simple. I don't know how many people besides me, maybe I'm the only one in this group, who's a recovering overthinker. Am I the only one? Overthinking is a trauma response. Behind it is worry that if I don't figure X, Y, and Z out, something bad is going to happen or something worse is going to happen. There are locations right now in the body where you can trace that. Don't worry about seeing them all at once. Start with the first one you're aware of and meet it with care and love, like you're holding an infant who's caught a cold or the flu. Not too tight, not too loose. Deeply relaxing everything around the area with your imagination, like you're opening a tightly closed fist. Breathe into the region. Feel it. Feel what's there, just as energy. No stories. No stories. I don't care about the stories about, mom said or the horoscope said or any of that. I know that you've loved telling those stories. I have too, but they haven't helped us heal. What they've helped us do is stay rigid and fixed on feeling stuck, separate, alone, and not good enough. Take some deeper breaths through your whole body. And this is not to say there isn't a time and a place to tell the story. Certain stories that have never been told, to have a loving witness hear us share the experience can be very, very healing. Beyond that, though, to start dissecting it in our minds or with another is just kind of like adding salt to the wound. It's not healing it. I shouldn't even say salt, I should say lime juice, because actually salt can be quite healing with good salt, even though it's painful. I remember my dad telling me to get in the ocean with my cuts, that they would heal. He's like, they're going to hurt at first, but the ocean water will help you heal. These days, I don't know how clean the ocean water is. Certainly not off the coast of Los Angeles after all these fires we've had. So our ability to meet our bodies with breath and softening is one of the most powerful relationship tools we have. With that, the pausing, resourcing ourselves. What is resourcing ourselves? Giving ourselves more resources. When we're overthinking, fear is arising. Some form of fear is arising that's looking to control. Do you want the one that's trying to control, this aspect of you that's trying to control, ordering your dinner, driving your car, operating heavy machinery, making big choices for the whole world? I don't. I want my best self in the driver's seat. And it's not about suppressing or pushing away aspects of our character that have difficulty. It's about a training process and learning to recognize resourcefulness in ourselves without pushing anything away. And then letting what is resourced, empowered, alive, connect with that which is feeling challenged. When there's darkness in the room, you're not going to take a shovel and shovel it out or try and push it. It won't. Good luck. You turn on a light. You turn on a light. And this is essentially what we're talking about, is turning on the light. I don't know if anybody's told you or told you in a long time, but you actually are not separate from your source. Whether you call that goddess, God, Ein Sof, dark matter, Ruach, Kun, or something else. You are inextricably one, as we all are. Our absolute true self is not separate from the source of all of creation. So where is this business of unworthiness? I said this the other day to some group, I think it was the Empowered You community. Is it like an object, like this Swiss Army knife? You can just pick it up. Oh, this is unworthiness. Here it is. I found it. It was in my pocket. I don't know why I kept carrying it around. I'll give anybody here $50 if you can show me physically your unworthiness. It's just thoughts that we think often enough that they become a belief. A belief is a thought you think often. Doesn't make it more true just because you believe it. And it certainly doesn't make it true because 50 generations of your family believed it. There was a whole lot of people that really believed the world was flat, and they were killing people who said the world was round. I know, we're silly humans, silly. You know, like, oh gosh, maybe during the Spanish Inquisition, which ran about 1,000 years, you know, if you were a woman who knew about herbs and acupressure and helping another woman with giving birth, you could be killed as a witch because you're not a male Christian monk. Ridiculous. So these things are all there. Like, some of these stories are embedded in the land in certain places. You can feel it when you walk there. And certainly in our bodies. So we're doing the world an enormous offering, and we're not special because of that, but we're doing an enormous offering of selfless service by choosing to meet these patterns in ourselves and dissolve them at their source as just energy. I'm going to ask my hosts to enable the chat, and I'd like to see if there are questions about anything I've discussed so far. So let's stay in the zone of relationship. If you've got questions about other courses or other practices, you can bring those to those other situations with me. But for now, questions about why are relationships so damn hard and how can they be easier? And one or two of you, at least, you know that there's a question moving through you, and you probably might sense that it actually can help the whole group. So be courageous about typing it into the chat function. I'm not going to unmute anybody because the recording's not going to have those. This way you can preserve your anonymity. If you'd like to write to me anonymously, send a DM in the chat, a direct message, and then no one will see that it was you that sent it, and I won't name you. Anyone? Cat got your tongue? Okay, I see one or two of you appear to be typing. And keep breathing and softening your breath. Scanning the gallery, there's some faces I haven't seen here before that I'm delighted to see. One or two from a group that I participate in with my teacher, so welcome to you. Okay, here we go. How do we melt unfortunate patterns within our relationship that are a result of individual and historic patterns? So exactly what I'm showing you is a key piece of it. There's more we're going to work with for those of you who are called in the course that I'll be announcing at the end of this class. But if you only walked out of here with the tools, these somatic tools, getting really, really intimate with softening the 6 points in your body, like you're opening closed fists with your mind, which then everything in between softens. Getting really good at this relaxing at will into the entire body. 1 is going to potentize any spiritual practices you're doing. 2 is going to expand your intuition and awareness. 3 is going to access greater clarity about that you have stuckness. You are never stuck. What you are is never stuck. You identify with the wound. You identify with the stuckness, and then we tend to believe that's the truth of it, and we're going to be that way forever. So keeping it really, really simple. Breath, softening, relaxing deeply into the entire body, meeting one region at a time where you're finding any bound energy, breathing into it and feeling it fully. An additional instruction is if the area you're working with feels very subtle, it's not a strong enough sensation to really latch on and work with, then have the intention to magnify it so you can deepen your inhales like we do in breath work. In through the nose, out through the mouth. And if you want to try this now, any of you can. Pick your area, in through the nose, out through the mouth. And let the area you're working with magnify and fill the room you're in. I know it seems counterintuitive. The ego might be a little afraid, but nothing bad's going to happen. It's actually you letting go of the suppression, and the healing may be very quick. So that's one answer to this question, but we'll keep going. How can you make this breath work in a real situation? Lots of practice when you don't need it. That's how. Seriously. And so when there's something new for me that I want to practice and insert into my life, I print something out or I draw something on paper and put it in places where I'm going to see it in inspiring, encouraging ways. So it doesn't say, you asshole, don't forget to breathe when you're with Dolly next week. That's not helpful or encouraging. That's shaming. I got enough of that growing up. That doesn't help me to grow. If I grow in the face of shame, it's because I don't want more shame. I'm afraid of shame. That's not how we help each other grow. So side note, in your relationships, criticizing one another is not inviting new behavior. It's just perpetuating the patterns. You're playing the role that their most difficult parent played. And you've just fallen right into the trap. You've fallen into the hole. Don't do that. How do you don't do that? You practice consistently in between, working with your breath and your softening. When you're at a stoplight in the car, when you're walking. I've taken on a really, for me, fun practice. This may not be for everybody based on your ability, your inner ears and whatnot to maintain balance. When I'm on the treadmill, this is easier for me than walking in the city. I'm practicing doing the 6 points of softening. How much can I let go in my body and let the field walk my body so that my body, my neck, my joints have greater alignment? A lot of healing is happening. It's not always easy. Sometimes I find a crunchy bit in a shoulder or a leg. So how do you do it in your relational situations? By practicing it in other situations. How many times a day you're in your kitchen, you're in your living room, you're in your office, and you start thinking about a relationship that's not in the room with you in the moment and getting upset? Right there is where you can work with it. I promise you, life will reveal to you plenty of moments without having to be around others where you can practice. And also, I want you to practice breathing into and magnifying what feels good too. That's really important. If you were heavily criticized as a child, you have a pattern you need to be responsible for, not make your parent or your child or your partner responsible for, of being aware of you have an ear that's listening to be criticized. So the more you breathe and soften before the date, before the dinner, before the interaction, the more conscious you're going to be. And also, when you do fall down, don't shame yourself. What can you learn from it? What can you learn from it? Go home, make some notes, do a little contemplation, do a practice, rewatch this video. You're going to be able to rewatch this as many times as you like. I will be sending out a link, fingers crossed, later today with that. Let's see, we got a few more questions. Okay, so a lot of these questions seem to come back to coming back to breath and softening as practice. So the next person writes, for me, the hardest part is starting the conversation. How can this be made easier? Softening and breath, supporting the nervous system to find greater coherency, ease, and flow is how we do that. I'm going to teach a whole protocol from Harvard, from Daniel P. Brown and David Elliott, on healing attachment patterns, attachment wounds. And one of the key pieces of this is what we did in the beginning, some version of a meditation where you imagine ideal parent figures who are totally attuned to you without you saying a word. They know exactly what you need. They're totally enlightened, totally emotionally healthy, and can place hands on you, love you, hug you right there where you are. This is one of the keys to healing these things. Why are we afraid or worried about starting the conversation? We're dragging some memory, knowingly or unknowingly, from the past and projecting it onto the future. We haven't had the conversation. How do we know it's going to go some way? Our energy state is determining how things go. So the new course I'm going to be giving is really about mostly working with our own energy state, and then strategies for better and different ways to communicate, to ask questions that don't bring somebody's defenses so quickly online. The more we're relaxed, that telegraphs relaxation into the space. We are not separate from the squirrels, other humans, the polar bears. All nervous systems can feel each other. So the more my nervous system is relaxed, your nervous system can pick up on this, and you may have an easier time hearing my new request for something we might do, or a new boundary, or a change. But if I come in all like nervous and jerky and worried, you're going to pick up on that, and you might get nervous and jerky and a little worried. And then nobody hears each other. It's just our pasts talking to one another. So this person writes an important thing. I mean, in reality, I cannot say to somebody, wait a moment, I want to breathe and melt my emotions away first. You're telling yourself you can't say that. There's different ways you could consider saying to somebody, hey, I'll be right back. I need to resource myself so that I'm really useful and I'm actually of benefit to this conversation. I'm just going to go to the bathroom. I'm going to go for a walk outside. I'm going to go take some breaths, take 20 minutes, 30 minutes. Let's come back together. You absolutely can. It's just a new experience for you, and there's some fear around it because likely you had hypercritical parent or parents that you could not say that to, and I'm so sorry that that was your experience. And you have a tremendous opportunity to heal, at a pace you can handle. And I've benefited from one-on-one support for most of my life, whether it was therapy, master coaching, healer, spiritual teacher. I'm consistently with usually more than one weekly being supported. So there's a time and a place to get one-on-one support. You don't have to get it all from a class or a book or intuition. And you'll know when that is, whether that's me or somebody else. How can I move past the guilt of treating someone poorly in the past because I had unresolved feelings of jealousy towards them back then? How can I move past the guilt of treating someone poorly in the past? This person has recently passed away. This is something I'll also touch on in the course. Valerie, make a note to make sure that I do. About healing relationships with people that have left their bodies. Just because they left their body, it ain't done yet. And their energy is accessible. And a lot can happen if we keep it really, really simple. So I might sound like a broken record to some of you, but to this questioner, I'll say, where is the guilt stored in your body? Ask the question of your body, trust what comes. You may find other places. Where is it stored in your body right now? Soften everything around it. Begin to let yourself feel it, breathe into it, and feel it thoroughly. The key to this somatic work is what's called staying. In our instant society of microwaves and whatnot, we have to develop patience, particularly those who are in the younger generations that grew up with computers and cell phones. I mean, when I was a kid, we had a rotary dial phone, one phone in the entire house with a very long cord, and if you wanted privacy, you stretched it to a room and closed the door on the cord. That's how you got privacy. But in this instant society where I click something and lots of things happen, I don't realize that my nervous system may be expecting that these human shifts we're talking about making should be instant or they're never going to happen for me. So staying and learning how to stay with something. And that's what so-called spiritual practices actually can help with. Following the sensation of breath for 5 whole minutes when the mind wanders, bringing it back, is a key form of training, and longer. And there are other deeper ways of practice, like practicing with a long Sanskrit mantra that you have to memorize and going past the syllables of the words to feeling the energy in there. Lots and lots of ways, and we'll work with a lot of it in the course. I'm going to go over time, so if you have to go, this will all be on the recording, but I want to touch these remaining 3 questions. The first one is really easily answered. Can I meet with you individually? Yes. There's a section on the website. Valerie will put a link in there for private session mentoring. You can explore and see if that's the right thing for you. You can do one or you can do many. Let's see. Any advice for patterns of not choosing partners to express the love I really want? Yes, I'm so glad somebody asked this question. Any advice for patterns of not choosing partners who can express the love I really want? I think I have a certain pattern of playing it safe with partners who aren't emotionally available. Man, I know that song so well. I've dated so many emotionally unavailable men. It's crazy. And then gotten mad and then gotten on their case. Why aren't you making events with me? Why aren't you? I'm doing all the And I'm like, oh my God, I sound like my mother. Wow, like a carbon copy. Wow. What if I'm dating emotionally unavailable people unconsciously as a form of grace to get in touch with my anger so that I can heal it and get down to the business of seeing that I'm innately worthy just as you are. Either everything and everyone is worthy or nothing and no one is the perspective I choose to take. Take it if you're willing. Everything is already worthy or nothing is. Don't lose your discernment though. You can still have preferences. So when we know we're worthy, we don't say yes to spending time with people who are a drain. We just don't. How do we get to worthiness, some of you are saying? Get in with these practices, these somatic practices. Help is not coming unless we're involved. Help is not coming. And we will pass these relationships patterns on generation after generation after generation. And from one particular view, the world is in a shit place as the field of humanity. Like one of the darkest periods ever. And maybe is going to get darker. We're not stuck with that though. All nervous systems are connected. As you touch more joy, whether that's in connection with another or just by being alive, that joy ripples through the field. Like imagine a giant, beautiful new spider web. Sometimes they happen outside here between the window and the hedgerow. These giant, I don't know how they do it. They're enormous and so intricate. If some bird comes by and his wing touches the end of it, the whole web ripples. This is how it is. This is how it is. I really appreciate this workshop. I recognize my reaction so much better now. Wonderful. I'm very, very happy to hear about that. Isn't it sometimes useful for a relationship and more authentic to show real emotions than staying always calm? Being calm and showing real emotions are not opposite to one another. This is part of our learning. We may not have seen this. We may not have experienced this. When I was on the phone, when the owner, I had already told his son, the manager of the body shop, that what was going to happen. They were going to release the car to my care, even though it's at the dealership. And I wanted X, Y, and Z, just really, really, really simple. They weren't going to touch my car. It was going to go to this other collision shop, and they were going to be responsible for fixing it. The dad calls me, the owner, gives me this big sob story about how hard their months have been and how many other people just like me have had the same experience. And I thought, my gosh, I mean, if you're going to be a criminal, why tell people that you've robbed lots of people? Start there. But I didn't shout. I didn't need to raise my voice. I was kind of actually surprised because this is one of the more intense situations I've been involved in years. So shocked to have this level of deception anywhere in my space. Like, as far as I know, I only tell the truth for decades. Like, I don't lie or deceive, even if it's going to cost me, as far as I'm aware. So who knows what the karma is. But the point was, I was able to express and be in touch with and feel my very real anger. And I told him, I'm extraordinarily angry. At the same time, and I believe this is the gift of a lot of years of practice and the grace of my teachers, I could feel compassion for him at the same time. But I didn't let my compassion suppress my emotion or suppress the communication that needed to happen. Yes, you are going to pay Geico back every penny you received from them. You are going to pay for my rental car for however long it takes until I'm either in a new car or my car is fixed by the other company. You're going to text me when you've spoken to my adjuster at the insurance company. I just like this. I'm sure nobody speaks to this dude this way. He sounds like a really intense guy. I would not have wanted him as my dad. So I hope this is a somewhat helpful example. You need to get in there with your own life and practice. Sometimes you fall down and skin your knees, but what can you learn from it? I do it all the time, skin my knees. You know, say something in a little bit of an extra way, a little over the top, and then go, oh, so we're going to get feedback from people. This is part of what we learn, the feedback of love. So I'm going to open up now the conversation, and then I'll see if there's any last questions about this upcoming course. So Val, you can put that link in, please. So I'm delighted to let you know about a new 6-week course. The first live session, will be 3 live sessions, and then the rest of the material will be pre-recorded and released each week. It's called How to Love and Be Loved, A Journey to Wholeness. So this was a big, strong taste of the work that we'll be doing. And then we've got 6 weeks. And with any of my courses, most of you know this, once you own it, you have it for life. You can do it over and over again. I designed my courses with lots of layers. When you revisit the course, some of you have told me this around the world doing my breathwork courses or whatever, you're on your 50th journey through it and you go, I just heard something you said and I don't think you said it before. Did you add a new recording? No, it was there. But we're going to hear new things. This course is moving through, let me just bring up the site so I can tell you most accurately. There's so much wonderful material that I'm delighted about. Somatic work, which is working with the body and with the breath, is the key, one of the main keys to this course and to all of our practices. It's going to support your awakening process. It's going to support your relationship interactions. It's going to support your creative processes. It's going to support your relationships at work. So the modules, here are the module titles. The Power of Love, Essential Foundations for Thriving Relationships. Shifting from me to we, rocket fuel for thriving relationships. Many relationships in the world are just a group of individuals, 2 or more individuals, still maintaining their individuality, not yet recognizing that there's a living, breathing intelligence between us in any relationship that has its own perspective. And the more we're able to tune into it and receive guidance from it, we can see what the relationship needs to thrive. And as the relationship thrives, it also fuels us. There's more about that. We're going to get into the conduct of love. We'll work with the power of discipline, the power of integrity, the power of healthy boundaries, and the power of play. Where we're suffering in life, we're not bringing the energy of play. Where we're playing, we're not suffering so much. So we're going to be learning and practicing how to bring playfulness which is not being dismissive to a partner's issues, but bring playfulness, lightheartedness, the mood of optimism, the mood of curiosity. We're going to be working with the shadows of love. Shadows are things that we've walled off at any point in life that we couldn't deal with, that were just bigger than we had the bandwidth for. And these can be positive things too. That's called golden shadow. This is where we project onto another our own good qualities that we're not owning out of our unworthiness, and we put them on a pedestal. And then we get mad at them for not living up to the qualities that they may not have had yet, but we projected and gave away our power. We're going to talk about opening up to love, opening further to love, and then finally, as I said, the feedback of love. In that section, we work with the power of perspective and the power of communication. There's a lot more. You can look at the landing page that Valerie has put up in there. As with any of the courses, we offer, there's a payment service called Klarna, and I think PayPal does it too. You can split things into payments. That's helpful for some folks. Right now during launch, it's $100 off the course. Later, it won't be. So that's a bit about that. And I hope as many of you as possible will join. And if it's possible for you to join and do it with others, each person who's going to do it registers separately so that you have people to maybe dialogue with, to discuss with, or to practice with, or share your insights with. If you want to do it with your partner, that might be a lovely exploration. And I want to give a special homage to two people in particular who are together and friendly to one another, who took a break, and one of whom said, I hope Scott's next course is about relationships. Well, I heard you right away, so thank you for that inspiration. I've been working on a love course for several years. It just wasn't the right moment. And at the end of the day, this is a love course. This is a course in love. There's a great Hafiz poem that I love very, very much. He was a Sufi poet saint, very enlightened, very ecstatic, like Rumi, and I think they knew each other. The subject tonight is love, and I know of no other subject for us all to discuss until we die. Love. It's the whole story. Let's see. Okay, this is a practical question, but I'll answer it. Can I ask if the courses of yours that I've bought through One Commune are available on your own website? No, because I don't have the license to do that. So those are all accessible through Commune. There's one course that's on both sites, which is my Power of Presence training, because I own that course and they licensed it from me. I think there was one more question. Oh. Can you say a few words about the image behind you? I see 3 others in the gallery view with the same image on their wall, different images on their walls. These are called yantras. And you say, sorry, it's not related to the masterclass. It sort of is, sort of isn't. I'm not really touching on some of the spiritual technology that I use a lot, like mantra, but I will say a couple of words now, since I have such a big audience here, about mantra, especially for those who've been reluctant or wondering if it's going to pull them into a religious thing or something like that. No. So mantra, yantra are very, very similar, but different. They organize and shape and direct coherent energy, organized energy, nourishing forces with different flavors or qualities. So Om Dum Durgaye is going to deliver different energy than Om Namah Shivaya. They're both from the same source. All flowers are from the same source, but a rose smells different than a gardenia plant. They're different. So different mantras for different aspects or times. Some mantras you have for your whole life. Some mantras are for a particular period and a particular reason, healing certain qualities, opening certain capacities. And a yantra is a visual object. Sometimes they're 3-dimensional. I don't have one near me that's 3-dimensional. And what they are is they're actually portals, energetic portals to these energy flows. They're not religious. They're actually trans-religious, quite frankly. They are beyond religion in the way that we understand organized religion. There's not like a thou shalt and thou shalt not in my relationship with my teachers and these teachings. It's not at all like that. It's like, what's a simple way to go beyond the ordinary mind that wants to overthink everything and deliver the energy that can transform that mind? Mantra. The word literally means, one of its many translations, a vehicle for or protector of the mind. Protecting it from what? Its own bullshit, its own delusions. That's what. So it's not like you're becoming a Hindu when you use mantra or yantra. And my own teacher would probably have a lot to back this up about bringing these teachings into a modern context without diluting their power. That's what I'm up to. So it's pretty likely we will work with a simple mantra in this course. I'm still listening for what that is, if it's one or two, because it's so powerful to take us quickly beyond ordinary thinking into an experience. Not because I want to just give you busy work. Any final questions about the upcoming course, or a last big question about this class we had today? Looks like people are heading out. Will I explore betrayal? Absolutely, in this course we'll explore betrayal. And there'll be a question and answer session later in the course where we can explore that, but I will also leave room and places for questions. Like under each video module, there's a comment box where you can ask questions, or you can bring them to the live sessions. We have 3 live sessions. So if I don't mention something that seems key to relationship, you can write in, and I'll be sure to touch on it in some way. And I'll be giving you resources for getting deep answers to your own most important questions. A simple contemplation process that's hugely and wildly transformative, and so much more. I want to thank you so much for your attention. I don't take attention lightly. That's something that you own. You own your attention, and where you choose to give it matters. Because wherever we direct our attention, we're directing energy. Energy always follows attention. And what we're going to be relearning and practicing together, both in this masterclass and in the course and all of my work, is transforming the attentional mechanism itself, releasing those old traumas, releasing those old bound energies into free healing energy, expanding our perspective, expanding our capacity to deliver a truth, even if that's the truth that we're angry, without having to shout or make somebody wrong. And to really maintain the mood of possibility and optimism, even over years. So, with so much love, with so much respect, thank you for your time, your attention, your love. I enjoy being with you so much, and I look forward to many more interactions with you. May we all be happy. May we all be loved. May we all just thrive. And may all the people that are connected to us thrive in all realms and all worlds. May it be so, and so it is. I'll get this recording up as soon as possible, and I will send you an email with the link so you can rewatch it, and you can send the link to anybody who wants to rewatch it. And those of you watching at a later now who didn't see the links, it'll be on the homepage how to get to the course. Okay, I love you. Bye.